Good morning and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter, set and ready. This is Nick Wright. Good to go. You got your tweet out. We know it's coming up on the show.
Yes,
it is going to be a good one. Tom Brady is ready to put Julian Edelman to work. El Bell is almost ready to play again. And Monday Night Football put Pat Mahomes on a national stage. That's where we start. Once again, Mahomes came up big, but it took him a while to turn heads in this one. His only touchdown pass came with 6 minutes left in the fourth to Travis Kelce. Next drive, play the game. Mahomes gets out of trouble, converts a first down. How? With his left hand. Chiefs then take the lead with under 2 minutes to play. Kareem Hunt in for the score and the lead. Next drive, fourth down. Broncos with a chance. They cannot convert. Chiefs remain undefeated with a 27-23 win. Here is Pat Mahomes after the game.
It speaks volumes to this team and like how much heart and determination that we have, that the defense got up there, made a lot of key stops, and the offense just kept fighting. The offensive line kept fighting. The running backs, the receivers, everybody just kept fighting, and we came out with the win. I felt Vaughn on my back, and I knew I couldn't throw it with my right hand, and I knew we needed the first down, and so I kind of just like shot putted it to Tyreek, and he got the first down and made a great play. I mean, you just got to get the ball in their hands somehow.
Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. They got a great offense over there. I mean, it's nothing new. We knew where we. It's not a surprise, what type of team they are. We just got to capitalize and make our plays.
I love this team and just how we fight. I mean, we hadn't necessarily been tested in this situation yet, and it just showed that every phase of the ball, special teams, defense, and offense, that everybody can step up and everybody can make plays. And I knew we had it, and I'm glad we got to show it for everybody else, and we're going to keep it rolling as the season goes.
So we finally got to see a little bit more of the human side of Patrick Mahomes. He wasn't Superman yesterday, but he was still good enough to get it done, and the Chiefs remain undefeated. What was your reaction, CC, to Mahomes' big night last night?
My reaction is Denver is one of the top 5 environments in the NFL. Now, you're talking about the Monday night stage, divisional game. This is the type of performance you want from your quarterback for the next 10 or 15 years. Like, you want him to be able to not have to always be flashy, but to have some grit, to have some moxie, to have some things that, it's not going to be easy for him. And when he faces Denver, it shouldn't be easy. With the defensive players that they have, the scheme that they run, pro football shouldn't be easy. So I like the struggle. I like the fact. I like being down 10 points in the fourth quarter because that's when you're able to see what teams are made of. Their offense is going to be spectacular. But if you're a Chiefs fan, you're going to have to hold your breath because that defense last night, I think they only were on the field 26 minutes. And we saw the damage that Case did to them. So, yes, Mahomes was spectacular. He saved the day. I love to see it. I love not his best game of the season, but what he accomplished, I think, was his best performance of the season because it's a message to that other team. It's a message to Von Miller. You see, Von said, no, I wasn't surprised. This is what we're going to have to expect out of Kansas City. So realizing how hard it is to win a divisional game on the road, I thought it was a tremendous accomplishment. I thought it was Pat Mahomes' best football game.
This was Pat Mahomes' fewest yards per attempt this year, fewest touchdowns this year, lowest quarterback rating this year. This was Pat Mahomes' best game this year because of what you said. They're in Mile High on Monday Night Football. Von Miller is locked and loaded. Bradley Chubb is getting his legs as a pro. That Chris Harris, still Chris Harris. That defense was there. They struggled early. Aside from Kareem Hunt, the offense was not clicking. And Pat Mahomes didn't make the critical mistake early. This is the game that I would have thought, okay, this is where he's going to have a couple picks because it's not coming early, because they aren't moving the ball, because he could get frustrated. He didn't do that. He got a touchdown with his legs early, and then in the fourth quarter was spectacular. The fourth quarter is where not only they won this game, but where Pat Mahomes had that signature moment, another signature moment, I would say, on 2nd and 30, getting him to a manageable 3rd and 7, and the big play to Demetrius Harris right there, which put him in position for the game-winning touchdown. The questions we had is, okay, how are they going to react on the road in a tough environment? Check. How's he going to react against a very good defense? Check. And how is he going to react when they don't jump out to an early lead? Because the Chiefs have been the best first-quarter team in football. Check. They were down 10 points in the fourth quarter. Denver hadn't lost a game at home with a double-digit fourth quarter lead in almost 15 years. So all of those questions we had were checked, even though statistically it was clearly his worst game of the year. I think, I agree with C, it was his best game of the year.
Did you walk away from that game thinking, okay, maybe this wasn't flash in the pan for 3 games. This could be sustainable. This team may be that good. They understand how to face adversity. They know how to win. And it seemed like they were calm when they were losing, which are really hard things to see, something you talk about all the time, learn how to win, learn how to lose. Does it look like this Chiefs success could be sustainable?
Yeah, Nick and I have talked about Pat Mahomes. We did an interview with him.
Before he came into the draft?
Yeah, before the draft at Fox and everything. So we like his talent. We thought that he had a big-time arm. We thought that he had some intangible stuff, a lot like Baker Mayfield, but without the attention on him. So we liked him getting ready for the draft. We loved him going to Kansas City because he wasn't going to have to play immediately, and also because Andy Reid was there. And then now all this talent starting to mature around him. You know, this league is a situational league. You need to be in a good situation, and Pat Mahomes, for one of the young quarterbacks, he's in one of the best situations. And Andy Reid coaching him up. The reason you could see in yesterday's game, it's not just about potential. Man, they weren't trying to protect him. Man, he made a lot of plays on his own, but the flexibility inside that offense, like they weren't trying to protect him in the play calling. Like they felt like any play in their playbook, they can call it at any time, and you could see that. Them taking chances on 4th down early in the game, it lets you know the confidence that they have in their quarterback and the different formations and variations of attacking the defense. You could see that not only from the beginning of the game, but even late into the 4th quarter after the quarterback struggled. Andy Reid wasn't pulling back and being more conservative. So it's a great showing by Pat Mahomes, and Nick has been on Pat Mahomes for a long time, even before he went to Kansas City.
Listen, I think we knew at Texas Tech he had the arm talent. What we are learning now in the pros are his escapability, which how many of those highlights are out of the pocket. They showed a stat during the game last night that I couldn't believe. It was the most passing yards out of the pocket of any player in 10 years, had 192 yards passing out of the pocket, the poise we're now seeing, and the accuracy. I did not know he was going to be this accurate of a quarterback. Now,
well,
again,
this is the thing. He played that way in college, but because he's not at one of the premier schools, we didn't give him credit for him being accurate. We just said, oh, man, this guy's a gunslinger. This guy runs around, makes plays. Oh, this guy is, Texas Tech's version of Brett Favre. He's the poor man's version of Brett Favre. If he had been at a different school, maybe we might have given him credit. But he's still drafted in the 1st round. Kansas City moved up all those spots.
It traded away. The Chiefs, and this is where the Chiefs deserve credit. The Chiefs were coming off a playoff year. Yes. Chiefs fans at the time did not want them to use a 1st-round pick, to use 2 first-round picks, essentially, on a guy who wasn't going to play. And they did it because they thought they had to trade in front of the Saints, actually, because they thought the Saints were going and Sean Payton were going to draft him. So they move in front of the Saints to take him. I believe right now, this moment, the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC. Now, C brings up the defense, and the defense is incredibly problematic, and I can no longer bake into, well, once Eric Berry gets back, because I don't know what that actual prognosis is. But there is one thing, shockingly, this Chiefs defense does great, and last night was another example of it. They are the #1 3rd down defense in football. Teams against them this year are now 10 of 42 on 3rd down, less than 25%. That is a way to be bend, not break. If you're giving up a lot of yards, but you can find a way to get off the field on 3rd down, the Chiefs have given up as many 3rd downs all year as the Patriots converted themselves on Sunday. So I don't know if that's sustainable. And you see, I mean, even Case, and he wasn't that accurate yesterday, sliced him up some. The touchdown run that Freeman had was embarrassing. They had 6 guys missed tackles. The defense is going to be a problem. But in a flawed AFC, when you have an offense this good and a coach as
They
good
don't
of a...
have to be
I don't think
perfect.
they have to be perfect. I just think they don't need a top 10 defense. They just can't have a bottom 5 defense, which right now we'll see if the third down defense can sustain them.
Kansas City Chiefs, now one of 2 undefeated teams in the league, 4-0. Coming up, will anybody be able to stop the Patriots now that Julian Edelman is back?
Oh, yeah, Edelman. Now they can't be stopped. Last week we was crisis.
That's a tease. Here, first things first, we'll get to Julian Edelman's return to the Patriots in a second. But first, back to last night's game. Mahomes showing off what he can do. A little ambidextrous and everything. Left-handed throw.
Now, this reminded me of Brett Favre right here.
Yes.
I thought he was going to throw it, but I didn't think he was going to throw it left-handed.
Von Miller on his ankles. And who was the first person to tell us he thought he reminded him of Brett Favre? Former teammate. I'll give you a clue. His interesting hairdo.
Oh, Tamba Ali.
There you go.
I mean, I think Tamba heard that from someone else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He don't have a Rolodex of football encyclopedia like that, so I think he heard that from someone.
All right, more from last night's game. Chiefs corner Eric Murray stealing the ball from Jeff Harmon for an interception.
Eric Murray found out this weekend the Chiefs tried to trade for Earl Thomas to take his spot, and he responded by having his best game as a Chief.
Yeah.
Had a pass defense, 6 tackles, and this play.
Harriman wide open, Case a little underthrowing, just the way Case normally does. Put it out in front of him. You got a big play. He makes a tremendous recovery. Takes it away from Harriman.
All right, let's do a little NBA preseason.
You know Harriman's a Buckeye.
Yeah.
Magic,
got that snatch
Sixers. Orlando's Aaron Gordon defies physics.
You know what? I'm going to say Aaron Gordon. I was expecting a reverse dunk here. Supposed to be the best dunker in the league. Says he's the best
Man,
dunker
he
in
can't
the
get to
league.
the rim going through a 7-footer. Like, he couldn't go through his body, Nick. Like, how's he going to get on the other side of the rim? Tell me.
I hold Aaron Gordon says he's the best dunker in basketball. It's preseason. Might as well try it.
Yeah, but you know when they're the best dunker, Nick? When the lane's open.
When the lane's open, when he doesn't have Joel Embiid right
Yeah,
there.
Joel Embiid wasn't
Boom
having
on
that.
Joel.
Moving on to the Patriots, coming off a much-needed win Sunday and getting a much-needed shot in the arm this week. Julian Edelman returns after serving a 4-game suspension. He also missed the 2017 season with an ACL injury. If you're wondering about his rust, Tom Brady says, do not worry about his rust. Here's what he thinks Edelman contributes to the Patriots' offense.
I think that's the thing about Julian, his explosiveness in the routes, in and out of breaks. It's very comforting for a quarterback to see a guy get open really early in a route. And, Julian, we ask a lot of him. I mean, he plays a lot of different spots. I think he's capable of moving in and out of different locations and kind of specialty type plays. So there's a lot that he does well. And, hopefully it's a smooth transition. And we've got to prepare this week. It's going to be a big week of prep. And then we'll go out there and play Thursday night and see where we're at.
All right, so the Patriots play the Colts this Thursday. They will have Julian Edelman back. What does his return mean, CC, for the Patriots offense?
Well, of all the guys suspended, Edelman has the worst deal because he's coming back on a Thursday night, less practice time. They're not going to be running around a whole bunch. Now, he was there all of training camp. He does have chemistry that has built up over the years, but it should be noted, it's a Thursday. He got 3 less practices. Huge difference compared to the other guys that are coming back on Sunday or the other games. But he's one of the best slot receivers that we have in the game. Tom's very comfortable with him. I think that's the number one thing. And he's so familiar with the offense. Outside of Gronk, he's the most flexible player that they have, that they can go from game plan to game plan, or they can go back on other years that they've done things together. He's hard to take away for the defense. The reason why? Because he lines up in so many different spots. Like if you try to match him up with another corner, Belichick will put him in the backfield, and then your reads become complicated as a defense. But his overall chemistry with Tom has made him one of the best slot receivers, and they're trying to throw the ball as quick as possible. Tom mentioned, it's a relief to be able to get a guy who gets open so quick. And the reason why, because they have so many pick plays. He has so many option routes where you can't be right. A lot of times on those option routes, he is attacking the technique. So in the slot, if you play inside, he's going to leverage you, stick you in, and break out. If you play soft zone, play to his outside, he's going to head nod you and sit in the zone. And if you overplay him and play outside, he's going to break it inside or go across the middle. Him and Tom Brady have already worked out all those things, so you can expect to get good results from him immediately. And what you're going to see is less responsibility on Dorsett, Cordell Patterson for those guys. So Belichick will try to get them into doing one or two things that they do well, because he knows Edelman has a whole handful of things that he adds to their offense immediately.
The Dorsett, Cordarrelle Patterson, even Josh Gordon part of this cannot be overstated. That we've talked about how you've got guys that are twos trying to be ones, or guys that are fours trying to be threes, and Edelman and Gronk being there is going to dramatically ease their workload and ease what the team is asking of them. But I'm not ashamed to admit this. I don't understand Julian Edelman, and I want you to help me understand it. See, he's not that fast. He's not very big. I know you can line him up in the backfield.
What do you consider fast?
He's not a 4-4 guy.
Well, how many? There's not a lot of people alive that run 4-4.
Of course.
I think people that talk about football, they think that, man, I ran a 4.6.
No, right, but
average speed in the NFL is a 4.6. Larry
Right.
Fitzgerald, a little under a 4.6.
So here's my thing though. But you're right. You ran a 4.6, but you also believe, and I think you're right, best hands in NFL history. You're 4 inches taller than him. You are tougher than him, and you could play every wide receiver position. So I want to understand. I know Edelman's effective. I look at the numbers. He averages 70 yards a game, so 1,000 yards a season with the Patriots. But you can't line him up on the outside. He's a pure slot guy. He's not very. What makes him so effective? What is it about
The same
Edelman?
thing that makes all slot receivers in and out of your break. How quick can you get in and out of your break? How tough are you? Because Edelman's toughness is really underrated. His durability. And can I be in sync? Can I give the indicators to the quarterback that are going to be real ones, not false ones? Well, what are false indicators? Giving the quarterback the impression that you're getting ready to do something, the quarterback knows when I'm getting ready to stop. Why? My head drops and my arm stops. But sometimes really good receivers, they can give the quarterback an indicator that, oh, the defense doesn't know I'm going to stop, but only the quarterback knows, because only my body drops. My head doesn't drop. My hands don't drop. And Tom Brady and Edelman, they have that worked out. He's one of the best route runners that we have. He has great hands. Route recognition, as far as defense, he's tremendous. He's a student of the game. And let's not forget, he played quarterback in college. So he understands offensive concepts. The two other guys that had that position before him were just as good or even better. Number 1 in Wes Welker, and before that in Troy Brown. So he does have those attributes that good slot receivers do have, but number 12 enhances all those abilities, and that's why they've been so successful with their slot receivers for a number of years.
That's such a good point, that sometimes chemistry is as important as intangibles, especially when Brady knows his receivers so well. How do defenses now? Won't they key up on him knowing that he's going to be the best receiver out there and that you may not even have Gronk? Is that going to take away?
It's a number count. If they don't have Gronk, he becomes the primary. So the initial coverage is to how can we limit him, not take him away. And the reason why is because you're going to give New England too much information. If you commit 2 people to him, they are going to go other ways. James White, Sony Michel, you will start to see that trifecta. I think with Gronk, if he's injured, those are the 3 players you have to key on with New England. Edelman, Sony Michel, and James White. The other guys, they're going to have to beat you.
And you mentioned that Edelman's in a rough spot because it's a Thursday night game. Should be noted, Adam Schefter reported that Gronk's injury is not serious, but given the fact that they play on Thursday, it's going to be much harder for him to play than if they played Sunday. It seems like he would definitely be able to go. With Thursday, he's going to be questionable. So that's obviously, they might have to wait another game. They haven't had a game with Brady, Gronk, Edelman, and White since November of 16. They might have to wait another game or another week for all 4 of those guys to be there.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up, Le'Veon Bell says he's coming back, but will it be too little, too late for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Next on First Things First. The MLB postseason is here, so forget the stats, forget the streaks, because the only thing that matters is October. The NLDS begins Thursday only on FS1.
All right, let's go Dodgers today. Sorry, Rockies fans. We got a Dodgers World Series future at play.
All right, hold on. Sticking with baseball, time for us to go viral. The aforementioned Dodgers took down the Rockies last night to clinch their 6th straight NL West title, and Yasiel Puig has big plans for Big Blue in the postseason.
Going for more. Hey, Atlanta, I see you soon, baby. And the next one, Chicago, Colorado, no matter who's going, we're going to beat it. And we're going to the World Series again. And this time, we're going to win the World Series. 2018, the big party is here in Los Angeles.
I think he said it all, guys.
Yeah.
No questions.
He's
No
not-
preguntas.
Hey, you know what? Toes down, baby. No question for him. I winning.
Oh, man, he's got his shirt off. He's got the gold chain flowing. And now he's drenching me with beer.
Yasiel Puig, one of the most fun players in baseball, burst onto the scene. A little controversy. Then his play deteriorated a bit. Now he's back. It makes me so happy. What, see?
He don't need to be biting down that bottle and everything. I checked him out. He obviously hadn't taken advantage of the dental plan. Yeah, he got a couple little. He got it set up in the front. He can get that fixed. And who drinks beer when they had all those bottles of champagne?
I don't like champagne. Listen, it's been a long time since you've drank. I don't like. If you offered me a beer or a glass of champagne, I'd take a beer.
Yeah, you don't have no class, though. I expect that. Like, hey, that's the right answer. Oh, great. Way to go, Nick. Way to go. I threw you a lob. Way to jump into the net.
I'm just being honest. Listen, man.
So, are you always being honest?
Always. I've never told a lie on television in my life, actually.
Literally do not believe that.
Jenna, I feel like you would be a champagne drinker.
I like champagne.
We got a lot of lies on that side of the table.
Oh, how dare you?
Wait, that you don't believe?
No, that one, I don't think that's what he's referring to. That one.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool, so we're all good now. Time for stories to start your morning. Moving on, Monday Night Football, Chiefs beat the Broncos 27-23. However, Broncos had a chance to win when Case Keenum missed Demaryius Thomas near the end zone, 22 seconds left. All right, Chris, how did Thomas get so open here?
They're in cover two. There's going to be a soft spot in the zone, deep down the middle or deep up the sideline. If the safety stays inside, the cornerback in that situation, 22 seconds, he should have stayed with the wide receiver and jammed it potentially out of bounds to slow up his release. But this is Case got to hit that. NFL quarterback, you got to be able to hit a guy that's that wide open. They designed the right play. The safety stays inside because he's got his head on the number 2 receiver. You got to be able to complete that one.
And K's second worst accuracy this year on wide open guys. I don't know if I'd call him wide open, but he was open. But if he does hit him, there's about to be a bad collision, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If that's a well-placed ball, it needs to be a well-placed ball, but the safety's coming downhill at him.
The thing you have in the new NFL, he can't hit you in the head, so he can't hurt you but so much. So as a wide receiver, the game is so much easier. You got to keep that ball on the field and force that safety.
Chiefs got lucky there.
All right, let's talk Kareem Hunt. Was a big part of the Chiefs' offense last night with 175 total yards and the game-winning touchdown. Nick, with all their star power, how important is Hunt to Kansas City?
Very important, and we hadn't seen this game from him yet. Now, if you listen to the people in Kansas City, the offensive lineman and Kareem Hunt, what they said was, listen, we could run the ball, but we're having so much success passing it, why would we? They needed to run the ball last night. It was the first game all year they weren't having success passing it, and Kareem Hunt kept them in this football game. He made some huge plays catching the ball, and on the ground, he is the defending rushing champ in the NFL.
I mean, he's a great rusher of the football. In the first 4 games, if there was something I was concerned about, it wasn't their inability to rush the ball. Because you know that's there. You know the weather's going to change. He becomes, outside of Mahomes, the most important chief, because if their defense is going to continue to give up the amount of points and yards they're giving up, you're going to have to be able to run the ball to win that time of possession to keep that defense on the field less time.
All right, moving on. The Fitzmagic has apparently run out in Tampa Bay. The Bucs named Jameis Winston their starter after yanking Ryan Fitzpatrick at halftime of the Bears game. Jameis will have the benefit of the upcoming bye week to prepare for his first start. It'll come against the Atlanta Falcons. Was this the right move, CC?
They got one franchise quarterback in Tampa, and it's Jameis Winston. There was never a choice here. The coach said it after the game. Jameis Winston will probably be here long after I'm gone. Let's not forget this. What division do they play in, Nick?
The NFC South.
Oh, who happens to be the quarterbacks?
3 MVPs, Breeze, Cam, and Ryan.
Oh, okay. All right. And you're gonna throw Fitzpatrick at them?
Well,
no, that's not going to happen. If Tampa Bay is ever going to win the division again, it's because of number 3 is their quarterback.
Fitzpatrick had an interesting quote about this, saying that he told, I think it was his dad actually, that I'm either going to win the MVP this year or get benched. Basically, he was saying, I'm going to have to play at this level that I was in the first 2 weeks all year long, or I'm going to lose my job. And that mentality, I think, is maybe one of the reasons he lost.
The truth of the matter, he didn't have a job. All right? Jameis was always the starter. Jameis was suspended. So do you lose your starting spot because you're suspended? No.
Sure. The point I'm making is, but that speaks to the mentality we've always said Fitzpatrick has. It's why he can have those great games, but also those awful games, is he thinks, hey, if I got the whole year, I might be able to peel an MVP rather than be a caretaker.
Grab that hat and clipboard. You know what? Act smart.
All right, finally, Leonard Fournette will be out indefinitely after aggravating his already injured hamstring. Fournette had already missed weeks 2 and 3 with the injury and left during the first half against the Jets in week 4. Nick, how big of a deal is this for the Jaguars? Or are they getting used to life without Leonard Fournette?
I don't think it's as big of a deal as a lot of people believe. Now, I think there's a limited offense. I do not trust Blake Bortles. I don't love their wide receivers. So you might say, what? Well, then they've got to have Leonard Fournette. I think the discussion around Leonard Fournette is based off his second to last year in college and has been based off that for quite some time now. He is a big, bruising, powerful, intimidating guy. But in today's NFL and on that team, he's never been super productive. And he got lumped into, Zeke was an early first-round pick. Gurley was an early first-round pick. Fournette was an early first-round pick. And now Saquon, he's never had the production of any of those guys or the production that Saquon looks like he's going to have. He's a career less than 4 yards per carry guy who gets injured a lot, who deals with this. He has nagging injuries, I should say. It's not like he has one major injury, but he's dealt with the hamstring before, dealt with the ankle in college. So there's a reason that the Jags have T.J. Yeldon, and I think that there's a reason that they are prepared to have Leonard Fournette in and out of the lineup.
I can understand why you're saying it's not a big deal, but the way their roster's put together, it's a huge deal. This offseason, they lost Hearns, they lost Allen Robinson, their wide receivers. They decided Dante Moncrief from Indianapolis was going to replace that productivity. Bring back Marcus Lee. Marcus Lee gets hurt. So they thought Marcus Lee was going to be a 1 or 2 guy, and he's never been a 1 or 2 guy. He's been a 3 or 4 at best. So the way they built their roster, their biggest offseason move was, what, Nick? Who did they go out and get?
What? Andrew Norwell, the
yes,
guard.
Guard.
Yeah.
All right, highest paid guard now in pro football. And the reason why you go out and do that, it's not for T.J. Yeldon. It's not for the wide receivers. It's because you have Leonard Fournette. They have one of the best offensive lines, one of the biggest, most physical offensive lines. The reason why you get that is because you have a big physical back. Doug Marrone, all right, offensive grinded-out coach. Tom Coughlin, offensive grinded-out coach. Top 5 defense. Their game plan to win games is with Fournette. So the reason why it's a big deal is not because he hadn't been productive as you would want. He doesn't have over 4 yards a carry, but their way to winning, they have Leonard Fournette in the blueprint. So they've designed a team that has Fournette in there. That's why I believe it's a bigger deal than what people would allude to, because the way the team is built.
All right, let's talk about another running back now. An update in the Le'Veon Bell saga. According to reports, L. Bell does, in fact, want to play for the Steelers this season, and he will, in fact, join his teammates during the bye week in Week 7. All right, so that means he would miss matchups against the Falcons and Bengals, and he'd return for that Week 8 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers are 28th in the NFL in rushing yards per game. 28th. So can the Steelers survive without him until Week 8, CC?
I think the Steelers, and they've shown this through the last 30 years, they can survive without any one player. Even when Ben's been knocked out of the lineup, they have survived. So they're going to survive. This is just and I think that we should use the L. Bell as a test case in the NFL for, does the franchising tag, does it work? And if it does work, how is it supposed to work? Because I think ownership has done the players a disservice. When the players agreed to being the franchise tag with the collective bargaining agreement, I don't think that they understood the ramifications. And if a running back is franchised, it is not a good thing. We know Kirk Cousins went through this a couple times. Yeah, he got paid, he got paid an astronomical amount of money in those 2 years they franchised him and still hit free agency. So a quarterback, what type of injury is going to alter his career? It's a lot different than a running back. L. Bell had 400 touches last year. At the age he's at, they said, man, you're going to put another 350 touches on his body? Like, I understand what he's doing. I understand the business side of things. My only problem with Bell is his lack of communication with his teammates. Now, football was a team sport, but every guy's an independent contractor. But you're relying on that other independent contractor so that we can all work together. So it becomes difficult when you can't have the same messaging to one of the guys that you're calling a brother, one of those guys you're calling a teammate. This is not your normal job. Like, we have a normal job. Everyone here has a responsibility. We all have individual contracts and everything. But I'm not relying on you guys like the way you do with a football team. And your word in that locker room, it does mean something. So my biggest problem is when he told the offensive lineman, I'm going to be there in a couple days. Because in doing that, now you put the linemen out there where they're getting ready to vouch for your holdout to the media. So now you made them look bad. So my only problem with Bell has been when he made his teammates look bad, and I just believe his agent got in his ear to change his messaging point. If he had told his teammates this summer, listen, guys, this second year of franchising, it's not going to be like year number one. I might not be there till the bye week. His teammates would have appreciated that. Their messaging would have been totally different, and I believe that he, from a PR standpoint, would be at a different point.
So he did an interview with Jeremy Fowler, who broke this story of ESPN, and he says that either it was miscommunication or something, because he's saying he didn't tell his teammates at any point when he was going to show up. Now, clearly, a lot of people in that locker room thought he did. So I don't know if it was miscommunication.
Well, let's do this. Let me tell you, he didn't tell him he wasn't going to show up.
Sure. That is clear.
When you tell me you're not going to show up, what are you telling?
Or you don't say I'm not going to be there. Sure, absolutely. And
what else were they supposed to assume?
That he was going to do what he did last year. Fair enough. And so I just wanted, but the other part to this interview, I feel like he makes very salient points. He says, I always wanted to play football this year, and he says, I want to retire a Steeler. Now, that might be out the window, but maybe it's not. What he said very clearly is that I did not think, when I didn't have guaranteed money after this year, it was a good move to put 400 touches on my body again. We've talked about it a lot. Most touches per game in NFL history, Le'Veon Bell, 405 touches last year. So he did have a very calculated approach, and I think we can all say the messaging got askew. That if he had said from the very beginning, I'm showing up at the bye, guys, just so everybody knows, then A, the story would have been put to rest, and B, I think you can make the argument for it that, hey, the Steelers
I don't think he knew. Why wouldn't you? I mean, why wouldn't you say that? If that's when you were going to show up, that's what your plan was. I don't think he knew what his exact plan was.
No, he definitely didn't know. And that's why you had the miscommunication between him and his teammates.
Quick question, though. You heard what there were some angry players. There were some bruised players when all of this was first starting before the season started. How does a player come back into the locker room now and say, I'm going to need you guys to work for me? Yeah, they do need him. But when this first started, I forget, maybe it was Minge. We had a coach out here that said it's going to be tough, that relationship coming back in for those guys to trust him and him to trust them again.
Everybody's got a job to do, but the trust between the players, what you say to one another, is different the type of trust you have for the organization.
So it gets forgotten.
It's not going to be forgotten, but I got a job to do. Like, you can't be a child. You got to grow up. I got grown man responsibility. Like the offensive line, you know what they got to do? They got to block.
Yeah.
Regardless of who is back there. So I'm not going to be sitting around wondering, oh, man, this guy, does he appreciate me? Don't nobody care nothing about this. This is pro football. You got a job to do. I got a job to do. And we can coexist and not like each other and totally disagree and totally be able to function and it not be a problem.
There are guys in locker rooms that despise each other. Right? Like, there's 53 guys. That has to be the case. There are guys, they get in arguments about politics, about religion, about whatever it is, and everyone has to be a professional. Like the Villanueva or Ramon Foster or Pouncey all of a sudden being like, you know what, I'm going to let Bell get crushed here. I don't buy into that at all. I'm not saying that's what you're saying. But the other reason that I think it will be an easier transition is can we show America what the Steelers have been on the ground since after week 1? Oh, they've been the worst rushing team in the league. They need him. Like, that's the other part of this is if James Conner and his great story, if he was the story of the season, then maybe it's easier to hold on to those hurt feelings or that bitterness. They need Le'Veon Bell. Now, the question for these next 2 weeks, to circle back to what you originally asked, can they survive? They got Atlanta and they have Cincy. Those are two teams that have very bad pass defenses and this year very good offenses. So the Steelers are going to have to go ahead and outscore Atlanta and Cincy because pre-L Bell or post-L Bell, that defense right now does not look to be Super Bowl caliber. So they're going to have to, through the air, it's going to be on Big Ben, it's going to be on Antonio Brown to keep them afloat. Because if they lose their next two games, when he comes back, they are shopping him strongly. If they're 1-4-1 at the bye, then your trade proposal to the Eagles, to me, becomes very interesting. They are now trying to recoup an asset for him.
Yeah, the one thing with L. Bell, and we can't omit this information, being suspended twice plays a role in if they're going to give him long-term money. Now, people talk about L. Bell and the subject with Pittsburgh Steelers all the time, lack of guarantees, long-term contract, but they forget that the player put himself in this position. Now the organization, how can I give that guarantee where this guy decided his body's not the most important thing? So now with him holding out, you know what he's saying now? Oh, my body's the most important thing. But there's been a time in his career where his body was not the most important thing, and that's put the Steelers in a tough spot where they could only franchise him and not give him the type of guarantees that his productivity would warrant.
Also, the timing works out well for him. That he come back on that bye week, you get paid for that week, then you don't have to play a game.
100%.
Oh, yeah, but he's
given up about $4 million, but he does get that $855 for the bye.
Yeah, one day his kid's going to be looking for that money.
Coming up, is Aaron Rodgers right when he calls Green Bay's offense terrible? That's next on First Things First. Here, First Things First, former head coach Eric Mangini joins the show. Hey, Coach.
Good to see
Morning.
you, Coach.
How are you?
CC has an issue with the handshake. Nick hesitated for a second. He went in.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. You're right in. Hey, question for you. When is a 22-0 shutout in an NFL game not a great thing? When it comes at the expense of the Buffalo Bills, apparently, and when it's Aaron Rodgers doing the shutting out, apparently. Packers beat the Bills Sunday by the score of 22-0. Rodgers threw for nearly 300 yards and a touchdown. However, he wasn't pleased with his own or his team's performance.
Well, we were terrible on offense. That's what it was. It was as bad as we played on offense with that many yards in a long time. There was no flow to the game. There was a little bit in the first half. After that, we were championship defensive level and non-playoff team offensive level today. That was not great by any stretch of the imagination. We need to find ways to get our playmakers in position to get some more opportunities. You know, a game like today, I mean, Devontae is a tough cover for anybody, but he should have 20 targets today. They really couldn't stop him. You know, and then they dared to play one high a few times. So we got to find ways to get him involved and Jimmy as well.
So we should mention Mike McCarthy spoke yesterday, said Rodgers' comments did not bother him at all. And I think, like what you said to me earlier this morning, like a lot of us, we saw this score and we didn't watch the game. We said, oh, the Packers are beating the Bills. There's no real story to it. But what do you think about what Aaron Rodgers had to say? Did you feel like his offense was struggling at all during that game, that he was struggling during that game?
I think he needs to relax at this point. And we're talking about high-class problems here. They have 463 yards of offense, and this is the worst we've played when we've had that level of production. And I don't really know why he feels the need to air these things out publicly. Why he has such an impact on the game plan. He has such an impact on the decisions that are made. He talks about targets to wide receivers. He's throwing the ball. He's the one who decides where the ball goes. And now, the implication that the plays aren't putting the playmakers in the position to succeed, that's what I felt he was trying to get at. And then he talked about the different personnel groups and how that hurt the flow. But the relationship between the offensive coordinator and the head coach, that's a symbiotic relationship. That's a relationship that during the course of the week is constantly evolving, and the game plan's evolving, and he has tremendous impact. We're not talking about a first-year player. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers with a system that he controls a significant amount of. So if you don't like it, deal with it during the week. Deal with whatever your issues are during the week. Why do you need to go to the podium and express that. That part I don't understand.
When I played with Warren Moon, I'd never played with a quarterback like Warren Moon. 1994, we go out and get him from Houston. We're so excited. He taught me so much about quarterback play and understanding and some of the things that you have to do, some of the things you have to say, and some of the other things that you don't have to say. And we were in practice, and we had a route drawn up, and I'm talking, man, I crushed my guy. I killed him, and I'm out there waving my hands and everything, and I think he threw I'm not going to say the wide receiver, but he threw the ball to our third wide receiver. And I'm like, man, what's going on, bro? Like, what about the chemistry? I'm out here working. And he pulled me to the side and said, first of all, don't never raise your voice at me. Don't never try to ever show me up, all right? I see everything. And so I'm working this system. I'm showing the coaches that's the play they design. That's the one they like. Our third receiver, he needs to know I got confidence in him. But when we get to the game, Chris, I ain't throwing to him. I'm throwing to you. In practice, I throw to them all the time. In the game, I'm throwing the ball who I want to. I'm driving the car. Brad Johnson, we used to call a play, and I might be the third read on this one. Brad would give me a little call. It was called, "Is there any doubt?" And when he said that, no matter what route, no matter what the priority, no matter what the defense, he was going to look my way. Double team, no matter what. If I left the huddle and Brad said, "Is there any doubt?" and looked at me, I know there ain't no doubt he's coming to me regardless of what they've called. So you're right, Coach. You do handle a lot of this. This is what the elite quarterbacks do. And he was all right as far as criticizing the offense, but when he started specifically saying they're in single high safety, they're in man-to-man, they're in bump and run, and I decided to go where the coach wanted me to throw the ball compared to going to Davante Adams, which the other elite quarterbacks, they would have thrown to him anyway. So a few times a year, Aaron Rodgers has press conferences where he's trying to send some other type of messages, and sometimes we can't interpret them. I believe this is one of those press conferences. I don't know what's going on, but I've had these press conferences before, so I'm not shocked about it. No different than him. He should have been a part of when they fired the coaches last year and a number of other press conferences he's participated in.
Jenna, to your point, this is one of the 1 p.m. Eastern games. It's the Packers-Bills 10-point spread. There's 9 games going on. So it's like on a screen, but you're not really paying close attention to it. They got up early, so it's 22-0. I didn't make much of the game. Check out the box score. Rodgers didn't have a great passer rating, threw for 300 yards. It wasn't until I heard these comments yesterday that yesterday on Game Pass I went back and watched it. I said, what is he so mad about? And, yeah, they had, I think, nearly a half dozen drops in this game. And, could the Packers maybe have scored 35? Sure. But the part that I think everyone keyed on is him saying Davante Adams should have had 20 targets. That's the type of thing Davante Adams might say. Like, as a frustrated wide receiver, I should have had 20 targets. But for the guy who determines who gets the ball, it was maybe there's something I don't understand about. I know that there's a design, like this play is supposed to go to this player. But
it's not, no. A play is designed, and the coverage is going to dictate where the ball should go, all right? Unless you think you can predict what the coverage is before you call the play. The coverage is going to dictate, but superstar players, they do this all the time. Like a wide receiver, it might not be the best matchup, but a guy gets hot, the quarterback starts to go to him. There's a number of other variables outside of that.
That's my point. So my question is, why would he not, during the game, just start targeting Davante Adams as much as he wanted to? He's the guy pulling the trigger. That's the part of the commentary I don't get. Saying Jimmy Graham and Davante Adams should have gotten more targets makes sense, even if it should be kept in-house, from any player on the team, except for the guy who throws them the football.
He should have said, I have to throw the ball to him. He shouldn't. When he said we have to come up, that means McCarthy's got to create. He removed himself from that. He could have easily said, I got to take advantage of that. Davante Adams, we cannot allow them to play him single high man-to-man safety.
And it was interesting, too. He said that we need to create these opportunities, and then he follows up with, they were in single high. The opportunity was there. He identifies that he had those opportunities. But there's obviously some bigger issue going on. So maybe it's the multiple personnel groups. Maybe he wants to run more no huddle. Whatever it is, there was some sort of clash during the week that he, at the end of the week, is saying, "Hey, I told you so. I told you so. We should have put 45 on these guys, and we only put, what we put on them, 22."
So a message to McCarthy, almost.
Yeah, but you don't need to do, when you're the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, with the type of success that he's had, with the relationship, what's he going to do?
With the result of the game you just came off of.
Well, this is the thing. I could understand not playing to a certain level. You should have high expectations. All right? They did not play well offensively. When you look at that game, there was no one that said, Green Bay. He was actually supported by his special teams, and the defense won the few times. He said, we played championship-level defense. And you're playing championship-level defense against Buffalo, and you only win 22-0. He does make a good point right there. He was not off in saying that. This was not a good offensive performance.
Coach, go ahead.
He could have easily said, we need to do a better job focusing and catching the ball when we have those opportunities. We need to take every opponent as seriously as every other opponent. There are a lot of other ways he could address this, but at the end of the day, he's not going to get benched. If he decides to go to a certain receiver in single high coverage, it's not like, oh, we're going to pull you. He's got a different level of leeway.
Coach, but this is on a big picture level. I've never heard you criticize Aaron Rodgers' abilities, but this is the type of thing that rubs you the wrong way about this player, right? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but this is
the difference between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. This is the difference between the most accomplished and the most talented.
And everybody has a podium. The head coach has a chance to go to the podium. The quarterback has a chance to go to the podium. Everybody has a chance to speak out. But there's no value, there's no upside in airing the disagreements that you have or the differences of opinion publicly, because all it does is create a bunch of questions in the locker room, a bunch of things that guys have to talk about that have nothing to do with the next opponent. And there is no positive value to it. That's why I don't get it.
Just ask Ben Roethlisberger, because he's very good at it. We got to take a break. Coach, stick around. Coming up, can the Eagles wake up from their Super Bowl hangover? Next on First Things First. Back here with Coach Mangini. The Eagles had an up-and-down first 4 games of the season. The season coming off a Super Bowl win. The Super Bowl win many thought would catapult them to the top of the standings this season. Good news, Carson Wentz is back and looks good. Bad news, they're 2-2 and have an NFC Championship rematch on the way this Sunday against the Vikings. Coach Peterson admitted he needs to see more from this Eagles team.
Our understanding that for us to play like champions, first of all, we have to understand that we are champions, and you have to play. You're expected to play a certain way. Coaches and players here in Philadelphia with the Eagles, and it's my expectation. And when you don't live up to that expectation, we need to just zero down on it and figure out why. And the sense of urgency from players and coaches needs to sort of heighten just a little bit. It's not a panic mode, but it's a heightened awareness of who we are as a football team, where we want to get to.
I heard those comments and I thought that has to be the biggest difference between the Eagles and the Patriots. The Patriots would never come off a Super Bowl win, have any point in this season where Bill Belichick's like, we need a greater sense of urgency on this team. These guys perhaps are reeling from a Super Bowl hangover. Is that such a thing, Coach? What was your reaction to Peterson's comments?
Well, when I hear it and they're talking about we are champions, it's not really true. They were champions. Last season, they were champions. This is a new season. This isn't boxing. They're not wearing a belt where they get beat by someone and someone gets to wear their belt. They were champions, okay? And that no one can ever take that away from them. But now it's a new season, it's a new approach, and they've got to be able to do the things that they did well last year better than they did last year, because every single game they're getting the team's best shot. And a heightened sense of urgency, well, why? Like, why isn't there a heightened sense of urgency? Why are we waiting to a quarter of the way through the season to say, okay, we need to play a certain way? That, to me, doesn't make any sense. And it's moving past everything that happened last year. Get rid of that. This is a completely new season, and you need to approach it like that. Stop living in what happened, a season ago.
And that is incredibly difficult for every team. And with respect to your point, that was difficult for the Patriots the first time they won the Super Bowl.
Only the first time.
Right, but they learned from it. Like,
yeah.
Coach, you talk about it. That year in 2002, you guys started off great and then hit the swoon, and then you were able to finish strong, but it wasn't enough. You guys ended up losing out a tiebreaker. But that's the only year that they then learned from that lesson. And then 2003, they win it. In 2004, they continue that winning streak into the year and were the best team in football throughout. Like, that. So this is a tough thing for teams. We saw Seattle was able to prevent that type of malaise coming over them. They almost won a second straight Super Bowl. They obviously got back to it, but it's not that atypical for a team to, as defending champs, not pick up right where they left off. But I am very concerned about what happened this past Sunday. I thought this was a game that last year's Eagles win. I thought that was a game that this year's Eagles should win. You're up 17-3 against a very limited offense. I think the Titans can be an underrated team, but most of their underrated nature is their defense. And to blow a 2-touchdown lead against that team, and to once again have your secondary, which was one of the strengths of your team last year, surprising strength, kind of bedevil you, that is, to me, a much bigger concern than is Carson Wentz yet at full strength, or what's the health of the wide receivers, because I have seen the secondary let them down each week of the season so far.
Yeah, to me, this is not about talent. This is about a young coach trying to learn how to coach, and he's doing it right before our eyes. That's the reason why he mentions we are champions. Hey, Doug, no, you're not. They gave you the crown. You got the ring. You put it in a safe somewhere. You're not wearing it around, all right? No, you're not the champ. We're going to crown a new champ this year, regardless of how you play. The thing I didn't like, there's a number of things that were alarming as a young coach. The number one thing was he said that we as coaches have to do different. Now, the players, we expect the coaches to be consistent. Now, if Mangini's my head coach, I expect him to set the table every week for how we're going to be. Now, if he comes in and changes, I don't know how to react. Now, assistant coaches, they're supposed to change. Now, you can tinker with them. They can come in a little more intense. If we're not playing good, I expect Mangini, if he's my coordinator, if he's my position coach, he is going to get in my butt all week. But I expect a certain consistency out of my head coach. So now, okay, now the coaches are coaching different. This is like what you get in college, where you have big traditional rivalry weeks and the coaches are coming in and now they're yelling at you more and everything. In college, we expect that. But Nick Saban talks about, you know something, we have expectations here in the building. That's what he should be talking about. The New England, they got expectations of what they expect out of every player every year. It's not about being – we have expectations what we expect out of the players. And if you do what you're supposed to do, you do your job, it will equate in us winning a championship. But you have to earn that right. And I think that Doug is learning on the job. And that's what we heard in the press conference.
Coach, what does urgency mean? What does that look like when a coach walks into a locker room and says, we have to play with a better sense of urgency? Is that showing up earlier? Is that designing more plays? Is that no goofing around? Like, this was supposed to be the fun organization. So talk to me about what that word means if you actually break it down to the players.
Well, to me, that's the coach's responsibility, is to define what urgency means. Okay? So if there are certain areas that he feels the team or the coaching staff is falling short, what are those areas? His job is to say, this is where we need to improve, this is how we're going to improve, and this is the standard that I'm going to hold you to. But to just throw out buzzwords like urgency or take your pick. There's a million words that you can send out that mean nothing. The coach needs to come in with a plan for how you're going to address the problems that are there. Otherwise, the players look up and say, okay, you just want me to play harder? You just want me to...
Right.
And those things, you may get it for a quarter, you may get it for a game, but they're not tangible, they're not real, they're not things that people can grab onto and say, okay, I'm behind this.
Yeah, they don't know what it's like to win and have the pressure on them. And I know Coach Mangini, he laughed. He laughed this summer when he started hearing about all the comments about, oh, it's so much fun. Oh, we have so much fun playing here. We knew this day was coming. This is the NFL. This is not the NBA. Golden State, they can say that. You know something? We're champions, and I dare anybody to say anything or do anything about it. There ain't nothing people can do. They are champions. I mean, what, 3 out of the last 4 years? They blew the other one. They should have won them all. Like, there really is not competition.
And in the NBA, it's dynastic. We see it, guys.
What does that mean?
There's dynasties. Like, their teams usually win one.
I've never heard that on TV.
Oh, okay. Well,
and Jenna,
first time for everything.
Go ahead, Jenna.
There we go. Well, way to be on my corner there, Jenna. Listen, what I mean is that we see teams in the NBA repeat. They come back like that. The NFL, the last team to repeat was the 03-04 Pats. Like, the Seahawks came close. Prior to that, it was the 97-98 Broncos. Like, there's not a lot of teams that repeat, so of course it's different. Like that, and the limited number of games makes it to where a little bit of a slow start or a little bit of a lack of execution can have a major change in your season. Like, I would feel totally differently about Philadelphia if they had executed their opening drive of overtime better. Because if they execute the opening drive of overtime, they get a touchdown instead of a field goal. They're sitting here at 3-1, and we're like, hey, they haven't played that well. They're still on top of their division. Like, those little moments really matter, and I can't define as to why it is the way it is right now for them, but they do not appear to be the same team they were at any point last year.
Look, in the NFL, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you need to have your blinders on, and each mile marker, you need to be a little bit better than the mile marker before. You can't sound the alarm in week 4. Otherwise, you're going to get exhausted before you get halfway through.
You break it down into quarters, all right? If you can go 2-2 the first quarter, next quarter you go 3-1, next quarter you go 3-1, last quarter go 4-0. If they're able to do that, it's not about championships, it's about a standard. If they're able to do that, they'll put themselves in position where they potentially can move on in the playoffs and give themselves a chance to be one of the rare teams that is able to repeat. But they got a long way to go.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.